So, did you guys know that there's a thing called oil paint that doesn't have any oil in it? We're going to learn about that today. Our guest today is Andy Walker. Andy is in Spain. We were a little nervous because we had him booked, and then they lost the power in Spain. Andy, what happened over there?
I don't know. We don't actually know what happened, but the whole of Spain went out, the whole of Portugal, the whole of southern France, and just for 24 hours we had nothing. We had no internet, no power, we had no phones, we had nothing at all. That was Monday and into Tuesday this week. So,
did you think the world was coming to an end, and you didn't know what was going on?
It did feel a bit like that. Fortunately, you could still get a little bit of radio, so we began to hear what was going on there. But
radio comes through again. So what are you going to teach us today?
Well, I want to have a look at water-mixable oils, which are the kind of oils that I use the whole time. They're great for plein air painting because you don't need solvents. You can just take water and the paints with you. So they're really good for going outdoors to paint. And I just enjoy using them. There's no smell, they're not toxic, you're not using any nasty chemicals, and they work in exactly the same way as oils. So I want to have a look at some techniques that we can do using these paints today. We're going to paint a little landscape with a tree in it and see how far we get with that. And I want to have a look at some of the things you can do with them because they're mixable with water that you can't necessarily do easily with solvents.
Oh, this will be good. We need to do this. Okay, well, let's get the show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes.
Our guest today is Andy Walker, coming to us live from Spain. And Andy, I just met Andy because he sent me his new book. It's a fabulous new book called En Plein Air, and it's packed filled with lessons and stories and paintings, and congratulations on that. That's pretty cool. I need to do that someday. Yeah, like I have time. Anyway, Andy's going to teach us about water-mixable oils and also a little bit about painting and plein air painting. And so let's take it away, Andy. Are you ready for us?
I think I am. Yeah.
All right.
Let's move it a bit. There we go.
Okay, good deal. Bring it up a little bit higher. Bring it up there. No, there we go. Right there. There we go.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be good. Great. Well, let me just show you my palette a moment because I've got various sort of colors on there. You can see that, but I tend to use just a few colors, and some of these are mixes that I've done. So I tend to use 2 blues, 2 yellows, and 2 reds with the white. So it's basically what they call a split palette of those. And I find I can mix up any color I want with that. So I've got lemon yellow and cadmium yellow. And I've got, which one am I using today? Oh, magenta and burnt sienna. And I've got ultramarine blue. And this is a turquoise. I usually use cerulean blue, but I'm using a turquoise. It's just that little bit brighter. And I'm beginning to get into brighter colors, really, in my painting. And from those, I then just mixed up a couple of green mixes. This is green mixed from the yellow and the turquoise. And this is green mixed with the ultramarine blue and the yellow. And a little bit of orange here as well with the yellow and the red. And with these, I can pretty much work any painting I want. I've got the earth colors, an earth brown, an earth yellow there. And I've got an earth red here with the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna. And they just help to dull things down a bit. They just help to neutralize the colors a bit and make them a little bit more realistic.
All right.
So that's the palette.
Okay, terrific. Hey, I just want to mention something that you know, the number 2 place where plein air painting is really huge in the world.
Where's that?
Spain.
Really? In Spain?
Right. Yes, there are several plein air events every week year round to attract lots and lots of people if you're not aware of them. As a matter of fact, I ran into some people from Spain at the American Watercolor Society. They were telling me about how many, like hundreds of plein air events. And so And when did you start plein air painting?
Oh, golly, I started plein air painting probably 20 years ago, something like that.
Right about the time we started Plein Air magazine.
Yes, probably, yes. Yeah, I only caught up with the magazine in the last 4 or 5 years, I guess. But yeah, I was painting before that on plein air. I think the things in Spain they do are competitions. They tend to do these sort of half-day competitions or day competitions, outdoors painting.
That's correct.
And a lot of people travel across Spain for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to come over to Spain and participate. Okay, well, let's get going.
Okay, right. I've mixed up. Let's see if this is all going to run off the palette. It probably is. I'm using a glass palette. I don't know if you can see that, but I've mixed up a very watery mix, just literally with water and with the paint. What they've done to the oil paint is they've modified the oil in it so that it can just mix with water instead of solvents. So I've got a very watery mix on the brush. Doesn't smell. It's completely non-toxic. And this is the picture. I don't know if you've got a copy of the picture, but that's what I'm going to be working from. And what I've done here is to sort of posterize it and turn it just into black and white on the computer, which just helps me to see where the darker areas are and where the lighter areas are. It just helps to map it out in the first place. And I'm going to use something called rabattement to help me lay out the construction of the picture. I don't know if you've come across rabattement.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. It's something that Monet used sometimes. It's something that Rembrandt used sometimes. It's something that I came across. And then when I look back at some of the paintings I've been doing it naturally without realizing that that's what I was doing. So if you have a rectangular support, then what you do is you make the let's do this. You make the square. So if you just take something and come down to where the square is, so you've got a kind of a square in here, yeah, right. And you can make another square the other way. So you take the side, just bend it down, and pretty much where it comes down, you've got another square there. Those points are quite good for putting focal points on, or main items. So it's something to do with the eye just likes to rest within a square somehow. Mm-hmm. And I find you can put most of the picture within a square, and the leftover bit is like a helping piece. You don't need to put lots of details in that. You can keep your details in the big square, and this little bit to the side is something that just sort of supports it and helps it. So if we look at the picture here, we've basically got a square where that tree is. So I'm going to put my tree along here. And this area here, which is just sort of leaves and bits and pieces, kind of supports the rest of the picture with its sharp shadows and lights in it. This tree here is probably on the edge of that square. So that lines up quite nicely as well. So we can do that. So it's just a technique. It's just a way of constructing a little bit of the picture just so that things work. So I've got my watery mix here. And let's have a go at just putting some of what we've got in here, just roughly. It's great when you're painting landscapes and things because you can get away with murder, really. If things aren't quite right, it doesn't really matter. You can work around it. So you can play really and just have fun.
We've never had anybody murdered on this show yet.
There's always a first time, Eric. So we just marking the main bits here. I'm just going to do this quite quickly. There's another big branch coming up over here. I just want to mark those in. It's a bit like painting in watercolor, a little bit using this, because there is that sort of lack of smell with it. So it's very good for painting indoors in the house because you're not smelling out the house, which is great. See this line here, this line of the horizon across there where it meets the sky is meeting on that rabattement point just there. So that's quite nice. That kind of fits neatly into forming a construction, forming a composition that works well. What I'm going to do as well now with this is just put in some of the tonal values, scrub that in just where I see some of the darks, and that's where this picture helps me, because I can see really where to put all those darks. So we've got area down here. This is just to give me a plan really to work with. It's always good to have a plan when you're painting, and especially about where the lights and the darks are. So I'm just mixing up a little bit of the paint. It's very watery, and because it's water mixable and water-based rather than solvents, this is drying really quickly. So look at that, it's dry already, which means I can paint on top of it. It's very thin, but it's dry there, so it means I can paint on top of it without any problems. This is all quite dark up here, isn't it, the whole thing? So that just helps me to map it in. If I did want to wipe anything out, I can just wet a tissue in some water and you can just come back in and lift it off. But again, because it's water, I'm not worried about my hands particularly, and the paints are not toxic, so we're all quite safe there. There's another tree coming in here, and there's another little one in there, and a bit of dark up here. On that bit there. Okay. So that's a rough idea of where we're going to go with that. That'll be enough to help me get started and to put things in. So let's get into some color. So I'm just getting another brush here, and I'm going to use some of these greens that I've mixed up. I'm going to use I've got a very dark green here made with the ultramarine blue and the lemon yellow, and I just want to bring some of that in places. Now, again, these paints, if you're just using them neat, which is what this is, I haven't got any water mixed with this. This is just straight out of the tube and mixed. They flow off the brush in a beautiful way, and they just cover really well. What I want to do is just vary the colors a little bit as I go on. So I'm just adding a little bit of burnt sienna into that color, just so it becomes a little bit different. I like to keep varying the brush strokes, keep varying everything all the time. So the direction of the brush strokes, the pressure on the brush, the color that's going down. It's just really important to just keep everything varied. And the way I'm sort of painting at the moment, the way I enjoy painting at the moment, is to leave the brush strokes very evident. And I tend to use flat brushes, which leave very square marks, which I quite like. I just like the effect of that, of these sort of square marks that go down. You can just see something like that. So it shows that it's not a realistic painting, but it shows that it's a painting because you've got brush marks that you can see. And in some ways, the thicker the paint that goes down, the more the brush marks are seen. And I don't know, I just like that. I just like the feel of that. So that's marked in some of those. Let's have a go at some of these other shadows. I'm going to work from dark to light. So I'm going to get another brush and just work in some of these colors here. Now, because these are green up here, because we're working into the trees, into the leaves. Down here, it's going to be more of a sort of reddy brown color. Excuse me. So I'm going to work with the burnt sienna mixed into my purple mix. So we're going to get a really lovely dark down here. And it's good because you can always come in lighter. If it's all looking a bit too dark in the beginning, you can come in lighter afterwards and change that. Just lighten things up a bit. But initially, just want to come in, and I want to make all of my marks, as I say, varied, so that it keeps a liveliness to it, it keeps a freshness to it. You can see there where the paint's beginning to run out a bit. You get these marks coming through. You see the purple showing through from underneath, and you get these marks going on there. That's absolutely fine. That's good. It just all adds to the interest, and it's really a matter of kind of building up the painting. I'm going to add a little bit of my red in here. Let's just make this a little bit redder down here, just a bit nearer the center of interest, which is really this tree along here. And so we can add a bit more vibrant color in that just draws the eye in there. Got some of this shade on this side. There is another tree in there which I just need to mark, because otherwise I'm going to forget about it. There's a tree coming up down through there, which is good. So what I enjoy about, I don't know, painting in oils is just the fun you can have, really. It's just you know, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, especially at this stage, because you can just cover it over. And so you can just play. I used to paint a lot in watercolor. And I've written quite a number of courses in watercolor. But just lately, I've found that I get a lot more freedom painting like this. And I can just paint from the heart, really. Kind of just let go a bit, see what happens, just paint from the heart, adding in colors as and when I want, changing things around. So I'm coming in with some sort of reddy browny colors here. We can come over with some of this with some of the brighter colors.
Here's a question from the audience. Do you find that the brush gets gummy when the paint adheres to the bristles and doesn't reach the canvas in plein air where the light breezes arise?
Yes, sometimes. It all depends. I've painted on the top of mountains. I painted in -6 degrees and Celsius, and everything just froze on the brush. But actually, it made a really lovely lumpy painting, so that wasn't a problem. If you find that your brush is beginning to dry out in the heat, then just get more paint on it. Or with these, you can add a little bit of water in as well, just to release the paint a bit more, just to make it a little bit more movable.
If your water's freezing, put vodka in it.
Well, I've heard that, yes. Yeah, you may not paint as straight.
No, it works. It works, yeah.
It does work, yeah. Right. What there is at the back, what I've done with this painting, with this photo as well, this is just done in Word. I'll just play around with Word with it, is I've just heightened the saturation, and you probably can't see it, but what happens here is that there's actually purpley colors in the leaves there, right in the ones in the distance. And I think that's really nice, because there's not a color that I would have necessarily have thought of putting in at the back there, this sort of brightish purple. So I'm just going to mix up a kind of a palish purple and just put in some of these. And what we'll do is just to remind me, because we're going to put some sky in a minute at the back there, and just want to put this in. At the moment, things are just sort of being marked down as sort of reminders of things. Okay, that'll do. There. Right, let's come in with some brighter colors now. All I'm going to do here with the brush I've been using is I'm just going to wipe it down a bit with a bit of kitchen roll, and I'm going to add a bit of white to the color, and a little bit of yellow ochre as well, and that's going to give us some of these sort of lighter colors around. You can always check your color. Oops, I've contaminated that now. You can always check your color against the picture you're working from, so you can plonk a bit on there and you can tell whether it's too light or too dark or whatever. I don't worry too much about colors, to be honest. I think it's more important to get the tone right. And I've kind of felt that painting too realistic colors, for me, takes away from the kind of the artist. What am I trying to say? The kind of painterliness, I guess, of the picture. If I go too realistic, then I'm losing something, I feel. And so I kind of like to keep it roughly the same color, but I'm not obsessed by getting the right color at all. I'll change anything, and I'll go with something that's just approximate, which again speeds up the whole process. So I'm just going with kind of approximate colors that are here. And again, that's all part of the fun of it. So I'm mixing a little bit of orange here with the white. The main thing to do is just to keep the tone right. And if you can keep the tones right, then your picture will work. It doesn't matter what color you paint, but the picture will work. So we're not going to have time today to complete this picture. I can show you, because I had a little practice of this the other day, and I can show you at the end what I came up with, the completed picture, which worked really well, I think. And I want to show you some little techniques as well for creating textures in here with spritzers, with spattering, just that will give us some really nice textures. But here, in this bit here, I'm building up texture by changing the color. I'm adding bits of yellow to it, I'm adding bits of white to it, I'm adding bits of yellow ochre to it, I'm adding bits of orange to it. I'm just trying to keep everything really kind of lively down there. Let's move on and paint in some of the leaves and things. I don't know if you can see let me show you my palette again. The mixes here. See that I haven't mixed them completely. I did it with a palette knife earlier on, but I haven't mixed them completely. So that within the mixes, there's some bits that are more blue, there's some bits that are more yellow. We can add in some white and make some lighter bits. It's all fairly sort of muddled up, so that when I pick the paint up, you can get different colors that come off the brush, which again just helps to give you that variety. And coming down to an area like this, you're going to mix in with that color that's underneath as well, and it's going to give you the interest within each brush mark that we're putting on. The other thing, just to note on my palette that I do is I always put out 2 blobs of white, and I keep this one for the warm colors and this one for the cool colors, because I kind of lay out my palette in a color wheel with the yellows, the reds, and the blues, and then I use picked up a big blob of red there. I use this white for the cool colors and this white for the warm colors, which just helps to keep everything just that little bit kind of cleaner, really, in your mixes. So you put in a lot of these things. See that brush stroke there with all those colors that have gone in it? Isn't that amazing? That's great. I love that, because it just does the mixing for you. So some of that's over here as well. Let's come on. I'm just going to do little areas of this because we aren't able to do the whole thing. I'm just going to put in some of the sky. And normally you'd say that the sky was lighter, the lightest thing in the picture. But actually, if you look at the black and white one here, you can see that where these leaves are and things and the sky, you can't see the difference in here. The sky is as dark as this is here. And the lightest thing actually are the trees. So we've got this sky in the background, which is actually quite a darkish color. So again, I just want to try some of that. And if the tone is right, then put it down, because it's going to look right in the final picture. So again, I'm going to mix my 2 blues. So that again, the sky is lively. You could paint the sky just flat. What I prefer to do is try and keep everything fairly lively and interesting, every area of the painting. So I tend to mix up my colours a bit. And I tend to put the lighter blues down towards the bottom, the darker ones towards the top. But I'm very happy just to mix and to create a sky that isn't just flat and boring. I guess because I live in Spain, there's a lot of flat and boring skies, and I kind of rebel against that a bit because I want to just liven it up a bit, really, in the painting. So brush marks going down in every which way, just to create that lively surface. And I don't mind if you've got little bits of the pink coming through either. This is MDF board, just 3mm MDF board, and covered it in a pink gesso. And that just, if that pops through, then that's absolutely fine. Very happy with that, for that to happen. So the sky can be built up just like this. And you can merge it or sort of merge it together later on if it's looking too sort of scrappy. But at this stage, let's just put it down scrappy and see what happens. Everything can be changed later on. Everything has to come into balance later on, but we can start off like this. There's some little tiny patches of blue. Always work around your picture. Always work into different areas of it at the same time. So especially if you've got paint on your brush, go for it. Go and put it in. Wherever you see a patch of blue, put in a patch of blue. Wherever you see a patch of green, if you've got that on your brush, then put in a patch of green. It just saves time, especially if you're outdoors and painting. And it just begins to sort of harmonize everything together. Again, if you use a different color for each brush, that can again just speed up the process, really, because you're not having to clean brushes in between time. You just pick up the brush you want with roughly with the right color on that you're looking for, and go for it. So let's put in some of these greens down here as well. It's quite a bit down there, and again, we'll tidy all this up later if we need to. The danger is to overwork things. The danger is to come in and overwork it to death, really. So try and put down a mark, and if you can, never go back and touch it. If you can, just leave it as it is. If it works, then it works. Don't go back and fiddle with it. If it doesn't work, then obviously you need to go back and do things. But if it works, then the best advice is just to leave it alone. How are we doing?
We're doing great.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Yeah, no,
you
I'm
guys have
fine.
any questions? Make sure you put them in. Our guest today is Andy Walker in Spain, and we're doing plein air painting. Andy's got a new book. I'll show it to you in a little bit.
Putting a little bit of darker color down here on that little patch there, just to vary that. There's lots down here as well, but I won't come in and do that just yet. After the break we have, I'm going to show you how to use the spritzer to get some really cool effects on there, and how to spatter some paint on as well, which is something that you may have done in watercolor, but you can do it with these paints as well. And it just can kind of liven up the foreground a bit, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Really, we just need to carry on with this sort of blocking stage. And the aim of this stage really is to cover the whole of the canvas. because then you can step back, have a look at it and say, yeah, this bit works, that bit doesn't work. What do I need to do here? What do I need to change? It gives you that sense of where the picture's at. Have you got it right or not? And it also means that if the picture's blocked in and it looks pretty good, then you only need to put in a few details to make it work. And the secret, I guess, is knowing which details to put in and which ones to leave out. I'm going to come in here. There's a nice shadow on the tree there. I think for me, this is kind of a central focal point here. And you led up to this very light tree as well in the background. Remember, those are on the rebatment points that we marked out earlier on. And I think that's just quite nice down here, that light against the dark. So I want to get the shadow really dark so that it shows up against the light that we're going to put in a minute. And there's some little bits back here on this tree, adding a bit more of the ultramarine blue to that, just to darken that down a little bit on that one down there. Bit of shadow on there as well. As shadows recede, they get lighter, they get less colourful, and the edges of them get softer. So what I did there with this shadow here, which in the photo looks as if it's just on a flat plane with these, is I wanted to push it further back. So I'd already got this light colour painted in, and I came in with a bit of my shadow colour, this darker colour on here, put it on. But because it's fairly neutral colour, it goes back. It's not so saturated in colour, so it's more neutralised, more greyed out. So that throws it back. It mixed with the lighter colour underneath, so it got lighter. And as it was mixing with it, it also lost its edges, really. The edges got a lot softer. Whereas these shadows here, which are nearer the front, put those in first, just on top of the board, and painted the white up to them, so we get some sharp edges. So you've got the two paints butting together rather than one going over the other, which is here.
Andy, there's a question. Can you, once your painting is dry, can you seal it so that if it gets water on it, it won't run?
Yeah, once it's dry, it's totally waterproof. Oh, so really? You need to do that. Yeah. The only problem you can have is if you're outdoors and you're painting on plein air and it rains, because then it will run. Excuse me, it will run a little bit with that. But once it's dry, it's just like any other oil paint. So you can choose to varnish it if you want to, or you can just leave it as it is. I do both with my paintings, depending on what I'm doing. But yeah, no, once it's dry, it's completely dry, just like an oil painting. So you don't need to put glass in front of it or anything like that.
Okay. Hey, Andy, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. Our guest today is Andy Walker, and Andy has a brand new book out. It's called On Plein Air, the French spelling of on, and it's on Amazon. That's where mine came from. And it's a fabulous book. You guys should get it. I have no skin in the game. I don't get any percentage. He's not advertising, nothing like that. Just a good guy has got a book, and you should consider it. We have a big event coming up, the Plein Air Convention. Watch this right now. Every artist deserves a chance to discover what they're truly capable of. This is yours. Join the world's top painters for 5 days of immersive learning, creativity, and connection in the most picturesque regions of Lake Tahoe and Reno.
I enjoy the scenery, I enjoy the locations, and I enjoy meeting people.
With hands-on coaching, 5 stages, plus daily painting sessions and a community of passionate creators, you'll grow your skills like never before.
It's a wonderful experience. I mean, it's a wealth of information. I got personal instruction from 𝗥𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗪. Do you believe that? I'm so excited.
It's just awesome to hear other people talk about painting.
At Pace, you're not just learning, you're connecting. Build lifelong friendships with like-minded artists who share your passion. This is where ideas spark, creativity flourishes, and your next breakthrough begins.
I would say just go for it.
As long as I'm living and able, I will come to these. Just sign up and go.
Don't wait. Seats are limited. Join us at the Plein Air Convention and Expo in Lake Tahoe and Reno. Secure your spot now. Well, it's officially the month of the Plein Air Convention. I can't believe it's here already. It's like a wedding. You know, you plan it for a year and all of a sudden it's over. We're getting close. If you want to come, do it. It's going to be great. We still have a few seats, but not too many. pleinairconvention.com. That's where you go. We have a free gift for everybody. If you want a free gift, it's a free book called 201 Essential Plein Air Tips, Master the Art of Outdoor Painting. Just go to pleinairmagazine.com/ebook. All right. Okay. And we would love it if you subscribe. We're here weekdays at 12 noon every weekday since COVID. So over 5 years. And we hope that you will enjoy being a part of this family. All right. Every weekday at noon. Okay. Back to Andy. Andy, take it away.
Hi. Okay, let's continue this, see how much more we can get done. What we need to really do is to get some of this tree in to make it kind of pop. And if you see down here on the black and white version, we've got some really light areas there, really light areas up there. So I've mixed up a lot of white in with a bit of yellow ochre, and I'm going to pop that in there. This is a eucalyptus tree, and I don't know if you're familiar with those. They're originally from Australia, but we got a lot of them here in Spain. And the bark kind of peels, and it gives lots of wonderful colors as it peels off. And so I'm going to put in a couple of colors here just to kind of bring that to life, really, if I can. So I've got yellow ochre with lots of white, and I've got one of my blues with lots of white as well, because you do get this sort of bluey color in the bark. Whoa, look at that. Just a few little spots of it, which will just help to bring that feel of the eucalyptus into it. Maybe going to use a little bit of just the lemon yellow and white as well. Again, it's all about variety. It's all about keeping things varied. So that you're creating lovely colored shapes and effects. You know, your painting doesn't have to be perfect. And especially if you're painting outdoors on plein air, it's kind of unlikely to be perfect, although the more you do it, the better you get at it. But it does need to read well. And if you can see what your painting's about from the far side of the room, then that's probably a good painting. That's probably something that is going to work. So every now and again, just step back, have a look at your painting, see what you've achieved, see what needs to be done. That's the best way of assessing what you've got and if it's working, and also what you need to do to make it work. So we'll just get a little bit more of this in here. So you can see the tree now beginning to come into shape. There's actually another branch up there somewhere. See, this is the fun of oil painting. You can just change things. You know, if you miss anything out, you want to put anything in later, you can just do it. And if the color's not right, well, just go back and change it later. But you can just mark things in. I think that's what I mean when I say I kind of paint from the heart. This, you don't have to think too much. Just think about shapes, think about getting that tonal value right, and everything after that is just play, really. So let's just put a little bit of extra colour in there just to show where the tree hits on the bottom there. Okay. I'm just going to put in a little bit more up here on these trees here, just to show that in the background. Tidy this up a little bit, and then we're going to have a go at spraying and spritzing and things, and just seeing what we get from that. So some of these leaves down here are actually quite dark. We've got to remember that purple that I wanted to put in. I just want to dot this in. This is in the background. And I'm actually going to wipe off my brush. Oh, actually, I've got another brush here with the purple already on it. That's great. Let's go with that. And I want to feed in over the top of the sky there, just some of this purple. These don't need to be detailed because they're in the distance. But we just want to get that feel. And I'm going to come in with a rigger brush as well, and a little bit thinner paint here, because I want to put in the tree at the back, or those trees at the back, and so I'm just thinning down the paint with a little bit of water so that it'll flow off the brush. And I just want to, there we go, look at that, paint that tree in there. It's got some other kind of branches coming off here. When you're painting branches on trees, always start from the thickest part and end up at the thinnest part. If you start at the end of a branch like that and you come in like this, then what happens is you got the thickest part of the branch there and the thinnest part down here, and that would just fall off the tree. So you need to start at the thickest part, and then as you paint up, just slowly lift your brush off the paper, or off the board, off the canvas, whatever you're working on. And it'll get thinner and thinner as it goes up, and that'll look much more natural, like a real tree. And we've got various sort of branches in here as well. We can do the same thing here. And while we're here, the problem is as soon as you pick up this brush, the rigger brush, you set to fiddling. And I'm not really at the fiddling stage. If I had a little bit more time, if I had a couple hours on this picture, then I'll be coming into this stage a lot later when the rest of the board had been covered. But the danger is just to come in and fiddle with that. So I'm going to put that down before I do too much of that. And I think with the very, very, very pale blue colour and a brush, I'm going to come in and paint this tree in. That's I really probably just need white on that, actually. That's not showing up. So I'm just going to go in with white. On there, a little bit of yellowy colour on this one. Can you see how it just takes kind of a stroke or two? It doesn't take much to begin to depict a tree or foliage or whatever you're working on. Patch of light in there like that. Let's come back down to this one. Begin to darken up this side. The light in this is a little bit strange. I think it's coming kind of in from here. So this is fairly well lit up on the whole of the front of this tree. So you just need to be aware of where your light is coming from. And what's happening. And when you're painting a tree as well, it's very easy to think branches go that way to the left and branches go this way to the right. What you have to remember as well is the branches come forward towards us and branches go back into the distance as well. So we need to put some of those in. And I'm going to pick up the rigger brush again for that, just clean it down a bit, because I just want to put in one or two sort of branches that are coming kind of forward at the tree and down through. So I'm just kind of imagining, I'm thinking this branch is coming towards me. What do I need to do to make it look like that? Put another one in here. Let's invent one that just comes out forward here this way. Because branches don't only go upwards, they go down, they go sideways. They do all sorts of things. Just blend that in a little bit so it doesn't look quite so odd. Okay. The other thing to remember when you're painting trees as well is that leaves go over the branches as well. So at the moment we've got fairly stark lines here. We've got to remember that actually some of these leaves actually come in over it, which breaks that outline up, makes it look a lot more natural. See here as well, there's a little bit of the purple from the original drawing showing through. That's fine. If it works, then leave it. Don't do anything else to it.
We're going to do about 5 more minutes.
Okay, right. Well, let's get to the other stage then. Let's get to the stage where we're going to play around a bit with it a bit more. Let's do some spattering and let's do some spritzing. Let's do the spritzing first. What I've got is a little spritzer. There, a little water spritzer. And just like you can do in watercolor, you can spritz the paint. This is down. So let's see how this works. So if I look at that, because it's water, because it's not solvents, it's not a problem. So you can just wipe up anything with a tissue that you don't like. But again, if you have this board loose, you could twist it, you can turn it, you can allow the paint to sort of run in different ways. It's just a way of melting colors into each other, just allowing it to run a bit. You can also wet the board quite a bit and then add paint into it, and that creates another kind of watercolory effect. So what's nice is that you can mix the two, so you can have really thick impasto areas and you can have really thin watery areas. And look at that, it just creates its own magic, really.
Here's a question for you, Andy.
Yeah.
𝗪𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗃 says, what do people do to preserve the oils, water mixable oils on the palette? I've tried boxes, adding clove oil, freezing, none of that worked. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, really, I tend to put it down. I haven't found a good solution, I have to say, to it. I've tried all those things as well, and I haven't found it being terribly good. I think the boxes is probably not bad if you've got the paints that you're putting out into a box and you've got little lids on and you close them down. Anything to stop the air getting to it really helps.
They do make,
that's not bad. I just find
airtight boxes. Some of the boxes are not airtight, but they do make some on Amazon. You can get some airtight boxes.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you can scrape your paint off and put them in there. I find them difficult to work with when I'm painting, so you need to scrape the paint out with a palette knife and put it on your palette to work with. But that's one way of preserving it. The other way is just to scrape it off altogether, to mix it up a bit, and you can use it to put onto a board as a ground for another painting. I tend to be fairly careful with how much I put out. I know a lot of artists say, squeeze out loads and loads and loads of paint, far more than you need, and then try and use it all. I put out generous amounts, but I try not to be too generous that I'm going to get a lot of wastage. I'd rather squeeze out a little bit more later on if I need it.
Okay. And there's a question: what happens if you spritz the palette?
If you spritz, that will help. We'll do it. That will help to keep the paints It's a little bit awkward on the slope, but that'll help to keep the paints moist, especially if you're working in a hot environment. But I mean, I work in Spain, I work in really hot environments, and I find the paint doesn't really need spritzing. It's absolutely fine as it is. But if you do spritz the palette, you're going to find everything begins to sort of run together there. And it'd be okay as a temporary measure in a very hot climate, but I wouldn't really do that otherwise. Let me just, in the last couple of minutes, let me just spatter a little bit. Have I got time for that?
Yep.
Just a little bit of very wet paint. Let's come in with something that's going to show up. So I've just got some of the red paint on there, lots of water. And I'm really just going to do what you do in watercolor. Just spray it on. Again, I'm not worried about toxicity. I'm not worried about chemicals. And so you see, you can create just magical effects with these water-soluble oils. How's that?
That's perfect. Why don't you come back on camera?
Okay, one moment.
Okay, our guest today is Andy Walker, and Andy just produced this new book. It's called On Plein Air, and it's in Amazon. It's really nice, and it's got lots of paintings, lots of examples, lots of demos and things like that you can do in all kinds of mediums, not just water soluble. So congrats on that, Andy. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted it to be an inspiration really to people to get out there and paint. Really, that's why I did it.
Well, you know, we would love it if everybody that's on this show just decided that they were going to support you, and because that's what we like to do for each other, right? I had an artist the other day who came up to me at the American Watercolor Society. I was there speaking in New York, and she came up. She said, "I was on your show, and I had 45,000 views, and I had all these people who signed up for my workshops and my newsletter and visited my website." She said, everything, is booming. So we hope that happens for you.
That'd be fantastic. That would be great. And I just want everybody to learn how to paint as well and to get out there. So, if I can help to inspire you to do that, if I can help to encourage you, the painting, the book isn't really a how-to, although there are some how-to bits in it. It's more a book to inspire you and to help you know what you're going to need and what to look out for, and just the things that inspired me really in plein air painting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, thanks for reaching out. I'm glad to meet you. I'm glad that we have a chance to get you on the program. We'll have you back. And it was a really terrific demo today. Everybody give a thumbs up and applause to Andy Walker.
That's great. Thank you ever so much for having me. That's wonderful.
All right. Now come over to Spain. We'll go hang out and paint.
That'd be amazing. I'd love that. Yeah.
All right. Or you can come to the Plein Air convention. All right.
Well,
thank you, Andy.
Bye now.
Bye now. Okay. Andy Walker. Thank you. Okay. Well, want to remind you guys that you can subscribe to this program. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. Just go to YouTube and hit subscribe when you find Art School Live. We would love that if you would do it. And make sure you get our free gift, which is our plein air book, which is 201 Essential Plein Air Tips. Just go to pleinairmagazine.com/ebook. And if you want to come, I'm going to play this for you. It's about our new trip to Switzerland. My favorite thing to do in the world is to travel the world. And I started doing these events years ago. I have a whole list of places, and I got a list of places from a lot of the people who've attended, and we have worked on giving you the places that you most want to go. The number one place on our survey was Switzerland. And it wasn't just, hey, we want to go to Switzerland and see the places everybody goes in Switzerland, the big cities. No. Everybody wants to paint the Swiss Alps. They want to paint the small villages with the church steeples. So we want to have the Matterhorn in the background or the Jungfrau in the background. We want to have the spring flowers in the front and the cows and paint in these villages. And so I've put together a special painting trip that's coming up in the fall. This trip is limited to 50 people, and we're going to put on our lederhosen. No, we're not really going to do that, but we're going to put on our paints, and we're going to go out there in the fall when it's still warm enough, and yet we're going to get the beauty of the fall colors and we're going to get the beauty of Switzerland. Now, that's not all. You may say, okay, Switzerland is enough. And you're right, Switzerland is enough. But there's some more things we want to do too, right? Because we're close to some other areas. We're close enough to one of the most beautiful lakes in the world that we're going to go to Lake Como. You've seen hundreds of beautiful paintings of the villas and the mountains of Lake Como. We're going to go to Lake Como to paint, and we might even make our way over to the lake next door, which is Lake 𝗪𝗏𝗲. We're working on that. We'll figure that part out yet, but we're going to go to Lake Como. And then, if that's not enough, we've put together a post trip. That means you can go to just the Switzerland Lake Como part, or you can add the post trip. The post trip, we're going to go to Venice. We're going to take the train down to Venice, and we're going to paint in Venice for 4 days. Because John Singer Sargent did it. Everybody wants to paint Venice. I want to paint Venice. I painted there. I can't paint there enough. It's so wonderful to stand there and paint the beautiful chapels and the beautiful scenery and the boats and the people and the color. It's just magnificent. So that's this year's trip. And I want you to look at the details on the website. And I want you to ask yourself this: when am I ever going to get to go and spend 10 days painting with a group of friends and painting what I love? And then ask yourself, would I like to have something to look forward to? Yes, check that box. Would I like to go on a trip and paint Switzerland with friends? Yes, check that box. And all you got to do is be one of the first 50 people to sign up. And just to convince you, I'm going to do a yodel. Okay, well, that's pretty frightening. Hey guys, hope you have a really great day. Make sure to go into the comments, tell us where you're watching from, and make sure to tune in every weekday at 12 noon. We love it when you come. 5 years, every weekday. Love that you guys are checking it out. We love it. Make sure to subscribe. That would really be helpful for you and for us. Thanks.